Hey everybody, we're live for a 4th of July Eve stream here in the US. Going to be playing some Burn with a little bit of a twist tonight. We're going to be trying out Reinforced Ronin. I do believe I saw GG once trying this and was not very impressed with it, and this was back before the banning of Lurrus of the Dream Den, so we'll give it a run, see how it feels. I'm not expecting very much from it, as it is kind of a recurring having to cast Goblin Guide. But at the beginning of your end step, return a Reinforced Ronin to its owner's hand, and then you can channel it to discard it and draw a card. So, this is akin to a lot of older design cards like Viashino Sandstalker and some other cards that used to return to their opponent's hands. This design was cute and was often decent in formats where sweepers were the primary way of dealing with creatures, but that's not really the case in the modern format anymore, so we'll see how that goes. What was the other card? There was Goblin... Oh, I may as well look it up, whatever the name of the card is. Goblin... There was another one that we tried. Goblin... Why am I not... It's basically one that every time you deal damage to a player, you have to put it back in your hand, or put a land back in your hand. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I know it was a terrible choice. I tried it on the main YouTube channel once and was definitely not impressed with it. Ronin I haven't had a chance to try yet, as when it was introduced I was kind of at a low point with Burn anyway and really didn't want to play normal Burn as it was, and playing a strictly inferior version of the deck was not something I was up for. So I figured with how well our run had been lately that I could afford to kind of, play one screw-around league with a card that's generally recognized as not good enough for the Burn, but we'll try it. But why is that card going to bug me from now on? Oh, I guess I could just do a search on Magic Online. It would probably be simpler. Goblin. It's one of the more recent goblins. Battle Cry Goblin, but the Bugbear. I think I remember a card like that. Goblin Bushwhacker. Maybe it's not a goblin. I thought it was. Oh well. One of these times I'll figure it out, but in the meantime, so as I said, we're trying the Reinforced Ronin tonight in tonight's deck version. It's 2/2 haster, not as good as Goblin Guide or Swift Spear, but it doesn't hurt to try out a third 1-drop. We've tried Vexing Devil, we've tried the other Goblin card that I can't remember the name of that was even strictly worse than even Vexing Devil. And then, to make room for this, we've shaved a couple copies of Lightning Helix and a couple copies of Skewer the Critics. Nothing too particularly exciting with that, but I did want to give Reinforced Ronin a try. Haster creatures are always welcome in Burn. Beyond that, we're trying out largely the same amount of list that we did a couple weeks ago. I made the adjustment to the sideboard that we've been playing the last couple weeks with Smash to Smithereens and Rolling Vortex, both as 4-ofs. Deflecting Palm and Path to Exile, both as 2 ofs, and then a 3 of Sanctifier and Vec. This card has been okay in some spots. Like I said, it's not good against Living End. It's decent against the various Archon Reanimator decks that pop up every now and again. It's good against Dredge, although I haven't played against Dredge in a long time. Beyond that, it's good against most opposing red decks, except for the Burn matchup. I just think you take too much damage for too little upside in the Burn matchup. You're basically playing this as a 2/2 keep your creatures from attacking card, and it can deal 2 damage, but meanwhile you're taking a bunch of damage from your lands. But beyond that, just kind of your typical burn list, and we'll see how this does in a league. And happy 4th of July to everybody here in the United States, and if you celebrate any similar holiday in your country, like I know Canada Day was a couple days ago, so hope everybody's enjoying their holidays. And let's get down to some matches. Alright, back for match number 1 with Ronin Burn. This hand is fine, but no one-drop creatures, but we can still lead on Riftbolt and Eidolon and be perfectly fine with this hand, so we'll keep. Looks like we're going to get our Murktide matchup right out of the way. I suppose it could be Rhinos, potentially. This feels like... Feels like a Murktide, and this is just going to get... Nope. Looks like it's Rhinos. Our Searing Blazes will be a little... suspect. Rhinos confirmed. Okay, looks like our opponent has a Shardless Agent. Anything weird that we should be aware of? Force of Negation. Like anything too terribly off the wall right now. Let's get basic here. Okay. Pass the turn here. Let's go ahead and fetch a basic Boros Charm. If they have Force of Negation, we lose. If they don't, then guess they're looking for Force of Negation. Responds Bolt You. So let's take the suspense out of it. Alright, so we want the 4 Roiling Vortexes. Searing Blaze is kind of questionable against them. Riftbolt can be a bit questionable sometimes. Guess we go with... well... yeah, let's go with Searing Blaze out for now and see how this rolls. Alright, so we have a Ronin on one here. Okay. I think we deploy a Goblin Guide first, so that way we're not constantly having to reuse our mana on it. And if they happen to have a Fire Ice, they'll take some damage. Not Fire Ice, I mean Dead Gone. We'll have to at least take 3 from it. Alright. Cast Reinforced Ronin. This is going to be the last chance we have to get damage in with it. Trigger. Okay, plan's going to go with the Cascade next turn for sure. Go ahead and fetch basic here, and I'll respect their face. Not going to 10 here. Yep, here comes Rhino Claws. Main phase is Boros Charm. Main phase of Bolt. One's got to leave something back, right? So they're choosing to lose the Shirtless Agent back. Alright, that's not terrible. Try main facing the Boros Charm, that way we know if we're dead. Alright. Well, with double fortification, kind of a difficult beat to draw. Or difficult draw to beat, I should say. We've gotten there next turn. No. Alright. Opponent can steal the play with Gemstone Caverns, so that's something to keep in mind. Although I don't know that it really impacts any of our keeps overall. Select the first. This hand is not the best, but we'll keep it. And the opponent gets to steal the play, which is obnoxious. Alright, so if they have a Cascade spell, we're just kind of boned. Wow. Such a skill deck. Right on time, Edelon, right on time. Alright, and with that, we're dead. Kind of hard to beat Rhinos when they get their kind of god draw. Alright, back for match number 2. Start play this time. This hand's perfectly fine. Swift Spear and Eidolon with some Searing Blazes if we're up against creature deck. Obviously, this hand runs a little bit of a risk if we're not playing against creatures, but opponent, considering their options. So Murktide or playing this out, that way we can still hold up the opponent go Island Consider here, or are they going to shock in to bolt something? Thought Scour. Okay, so apparently we're up against Shadow. Or not. I'm completely confused, but that's okay. Take a lot of damage to put these runes into play. I'm just going to deploy the 1 for now, see what happens. See if everyone plays like a Naked Snapcaster or something. Fatal Push on the Eidolon. That goes to 10. Ronin returns to her hand. Thought Scour. What is going on here? Subtlety, Thought Scour. It's like sometimes by a weird Murktide deck. So depending on the size of the Murktide here, it's a 7/7, so we can't kill it even if we want to. Just going to go ahead and fetch and just deal them damage with Searing Blaze. And would be okay here. Sure. Pitch Scalding Turn. Play a crap like Spell Pierce too. No, apparently Fatal Push. It goes to 3. Going to flash back Cling to Dust. Yeah, if you would have been one draw step sooner, we would have been a lot better off. But still, we just lose. So our opponent's playing some type of Murktide pile, but we don't really know what. Searing Blaze may not be the best. We're not really sure because we don't know what they're playing. Sanctifier seems okay. Most their removal seems to be black based. Maybe shave a Rift Bolt. Try it like that. Hand is missing white mana, has a reasonable opener, so we'll try it. Okay, just move to attacks. In case our opponent has a bolt effect or something here. They're trying to get us to just go ahead and do that. Suspend the Rift Bolt and pass. Our opponent fetches a basic island, okay? Honestly, it's been a while since I've seen anyone play Thought Scour in a deck. think the old Shadow decks were the last ones I saw play Thought Scour. Opponent with a bit of a questionable start. Don't know how you keep a hand against Burn with no early interaction. Still have no idea what our opponent's playing. They could just be like Grixis spells with Murktide, but like we haven't seen any other additional creatures. We haven't seen, you know, like Snapcasters or Ragavans or Darcys or Ledger Shredders or like anything you normally associate with a Grixis pile. They're not playing a Shadow mana base because they're playing way too many undamaging lands like Sulphur Falls and such. They have not shown us anything else really of note other than like Thought Scour and such. So like I'm just kind of banking them on being in Murktide control deck. That's why I don't really want you know, Searing Blaze in my deck's like okay, Deflecting Palm's okay. Couple paths are fine, just answer the first Murktide. You know, we obviously slot Cling to Dust out of them, which makes Rolling Vortex somewhat appealing, but also kind of not. Like, how much permanent base things do I want against a Murktide deck? Especially since their only free spell is... I don't even know that we've seen a free spell out of them, so we're just going to roll with what we have. This hand seems perfectly fine. So how much damage do I take out of this? I don't know that it truly matters against what looks like our opponent's playing. Alright, opponent gets an Alwaro. So they fetch. Shock. Okay, so Goblin God mostly did its job. Cling to Dust, sure. Attacks. Opponent goes to 10. So what is this? Revealing Counterspell. Tainted Indulgence. That seems like not the best card in this situation. Say, show me Fatal Push. So we know our opponent has access to a counterspell. Did they fetch that away? I don't think they fetched that away, did they? No, they did not. There's Drowning the Lock. Our opponent to 2. Hopefully I don't suddenly have Murktide here. Feels like the answer is Flashback Cling to Dust. Well, we're choosing the wrong time to flood out. And put a Thought Scour on in step. Seems like a card that's just going to get answered. Opponent could have timed their Kulligan's command a little bit better, but I guess it really doesn't matter. Alright, off to a fantastic start so far. See you for the next match. On to match 3 on the play. Opponent has a companion of some kind. Gigantha doesn't really tell us a ton. I guess tells us some, but not a lot here. So, but as frustrating as it was to lose that third game, I could have made some differences. Opponent's only getting to 4. So Tron, perhaps? His hand is not the best setup for that, but... Opponent. Tron confirmed. Right along go. opponent with... I mean, they could have just natural Tron. Should be a heck of a... So put you to 12. So put you to 9. You should be dead next turn unless you have a relevant play. Looks like they just kept a... Well, they did mulligan before, so they had to be a little bit cautious with how they did things. You're going to besage you here. No, Ancient Stirrings. So you're dead. Got it. Khan, the great creator. Yeah, let's just kill them. I need to take any additional game actions here. Alright. Green Tron. Whirling Vortexes in. We'll go with Searing Blazes out. Could bring in, argue, well, Path, Smash to Smithereens. These are all cards we'd probably like to consider. Eidolon on the draw is a little bit worse. Lightning Helix isn't always the best. Ronin's not the best here, but still one drop to pressure our opponent some. So I think we go like that. So that seems perfectly acceptable. Turn 1. Fortunately, we're not on the play here, and we can punish them for that kind of opening, but... on the play, you can smash their expedition map and really kind of get them. So... doing this, this is the most vulnerable to 3 mana Karn, 4 mana Karn into Trinisphere, but looks like they just have Karn Liberated. They do take away a land here. Nope, just I guess we take away Eidolon at this point. Cast this guy, cast this guy. Punch our opponent in the face for a lot. Opponent gets to do an Oblivion Stone next turn, which kind of sucks, but I go to 4. Sure. Hopefully our opponent is now Thragtusk here. Almost everything else we can beat. Sure. Limit some of what our opponent can play. If they get a Thrag Tusk here, there's nothing coming back from that here. You are drawing lands at the most inopportune of times tonight. Like literally any spell in our deck was lethal at that point. I guess other than maybe... No, even Smash was, I think, lethal at that point. But it's like our opponent's having their own issues. That's probably going to be a problem. One's got a Eugene. Okay. So maybe that's the reason I'm not supposed to play out Goblin God here. But it still doesn't attack. And hopefully that'll get us there. Gonna say, I know sometimes they play Warping Whale, so it's not always guaranteed a sorcery wins there. Alright, taking a look at this hand. Don't know what to make of this one. Like, normally I don't like keeping 4 landers under any circumstances, but 3 creatures makes this hand fairly interesting, so we'll keep. Turn 1, Urza's Tower. Okay. So, opponent draws Power Plant off of our Goblin God trigger. Oof. Mismatched Tron lands. That's an abomination. So, it looks like we might be up against Eldrazi Tron. Somebody actually revived that nonsense. Indeed. Ugin the Ineffable is not usually run in under normal circumstances. We're actually a little bit worse against this because of Reinforced Ronin being in our deck. Obviously, we don't normally see Game 1 Chalice in the format much right now, but okay, versus 9 into nothing. Alright, well, that's actually, I can't play Swizzle Spear here. Karn the Great Creator. Go ahead and do that. Matchup I used to see a lot as a burn pilot, but never one I was thrilled to see. So 8 mana Eldrazi. So does 1 damage matter here? So it's a question of, is the 1 damage out of Searing Blaze relevant, or is... I think we'll take the damage. It's either, do I take or deal them the 1 damage, or do I crack the Sunbaked Canyon this turn? Because either way would be losing the Searing Blaze. So either way, we're either dealing ourselves 3 to deal them 1, or we're just losing it, period. This looks like Chalice on... Oh, okay, thank goodness it's not Chalice on 2. I guess the nice thing with Ronin, at least it's a redraw. So what are we going to go grab here? Liquid metal coating. I think we just pass. If our opponent wants to play liquid metal coating, they're going to take 2 damage for it. Okay. Eugene the Spirit Dragon. Alright. Okay, we got another 1 drop we can't cast. Okay, Boros Tron to start. Rift Bolt. Skugan's actually the bigger threat more than anything else. Because next turn it gets to ultimate and gain them 7 life. Okay, this is what? Reality Smasher. Kind of whatever here. Has access to 4 mana. Sure. Let's see what our opponent grabs. Because honestly, if our opponent wanted to lock up the game, what they should have done is gone Trinisphere, blow up one of our lands, would have forced us to pay 3 for Riftbolt, and then nothing we could have drawn would have gotten us out of this situation. Now this particular go-round, we at least have outs. I'm going to fetch during my upkeep, although it doesn't matter in this particular spot as far as like fetching during upkeep for Searing Blaze, because the 1 damage is going to be enough regardless, but bang. This is one of those spots where fetching to thin does matter. But literally, our opponent should have played Trinisphere, and that would have reduced the number of outs that we had. But not that Eidolon would have gotten it there anyway. Four, 8. If our opponent ultimates Ugin, we're just dead, regardless, so. We at least gave ourselves the chance to get that on the game. Although, you know, let's see, get a little bit more information about their deck. Because Ugin the Spirit Dragon was not relevant in Eldrazi Tron previously. Okay, so we did a lot of things. Let's go ahead and move on here. There's no wonder, obviously, gets us out of this. Bring in the 4 smashes, bring in the 2 deflecting palms, bring in the 2 path exiles. Searing Blaze is usually not very good in this matchup. Reinforced Ronin is questionable. Eidolon's not the best in this matchup usually. So maybe I just go down the Eidolons. Try it like this. Guess we keep the 15-point hand of burn. Prioritize getting our 1-drops out of our hand. Okay. Smash would be a good draw. Reinforced Ronin. Okay, deal 2 to our opponent. Do they play Chalice here? Looks like the answer to that is yes. So we should have gotten the bolt out of our hand while we had the chance. Does our opponent play Thought-Knot here, or do they make a token this turn? So our opponent does none of the above. Instead, they choose to get another land drop. Wait, what? They didn't fetch anything with Urza Saga, so there's no Shadow Spear or nothing coming down. Seems... Oh, they got an Expedition map. That's what they did. That makes a little more sense now. That's fine. So we're on a 2-turn clock either way. So unless our opponent is careless with their attack, we're just dead here. So I go down to 4, up to 7. Oh, our opponent was playing around Deflecting Palm there, so, I mean, kind of makes sense, but also kind of doesn't. Plus to 4. Why didn't we just do that to begin with? Sure. Alright, back for match number 5 with a 1-lander. Draw. Guess we'll try it. Especially with the 2 1-drop creatures and Ronin being what it is. So Mishra's Bauble, probably not good news for us. Either Asmo pile or Death Shadow of some kind. Looks like it's the Asmo pile. And they have a full okay. This is a matchup that we're 2-0 against so far, but I do think this is a terrible matchup because of Underworld Cookbook making food all the time. I just think our opponents have misplayed the matchup badly. So I guess we'll see that they have the combo against us of Underworld Cookbook plus Overchasel Daredevil into Ledger Shredder, sure. So we have to spend our turn taking out Ledger Shredder. I'm gonna say, do they somehow play Force of Negation in this pile in addition to all the engine pieces? Okay, that's a terrifying card as well. How did that end up in their graveyard anyway? Discarding it with... yeah, they must have discarded it last turn. I'm not even sure that we have a good play this turn, because they're just going to make basically infinite food and infinite. I'm surprised they didn't crack there on end step. They should have cracked a food on end step. Oh well. Time Sieve, is this infinite? to see the infinite engine of our opponent. This is why I say I'm not very thrilled with this matchup, although, like I said, we've gotten a little bit lucky with how our opponents have played it previously. But now I see why our opponent didn't crack the food on instep. They wanted to make sure they had enough artifacts to sacrifice to time Sieve. Opponent's engine going ham here. Alright. So against our opponent's bizarre pile, we actually want most of our sideboard. Sanctifier, it's reasonable against their... I mean, it's okay, mainly against Noble Chase Daredevil, Smashes and Rolling Vortex, Reinforced Ronin, just been abysmal this whole league. Stern Blaze is relevant, Eidolon is okay-ish. Problem is we have so many 3-drops now. So I'd like to play first. This hand's fun. Okay, put out the Daredevil. And one cookbook. Academy Manufacturer. I want us to pause because any of their free spells actually cost them five life. We're just going to hold up the activations because I have no reason to take a gameplay action. Any of their Mishra's Baubles or any of that kind of stuff costs them 5 life. I believe Asmo actually costs them 5 life too, because the mana cost on the card, I believe, is technically 0. How does this work? Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was cast. Sure. Above the draw land. To 9 here. So we know 3 of the cards in our opponent's hand. Sure. So land is lethal here. So time Sieve is how many artifacts? Sacrifice 5. And this is probably game. Would at least attack with the Ledger Shredder there. You figured it out. So is that enough artifacts to go off again? I don't think so. Sure. Not sure I get the point of that, but sure. Hey, no lander. They always look good. Sounds fine. Probably put back lava spike. Well, one of the lava spikes anyway. That goes turn one, nothing. Pleasure sugar, sure. Guess we just push damage if we can. Alright. Don't want to pump up our opponent's creature before combat, so now they have to consider what they want to do. And we'll just pass. Strange as that is, I don't want to grow their Ledger Shredder. And if they have... I assume they're getting cookbook here, right? Yeah. Right on time, Edelon, right on time. Yep, it's just kind of been the night it's been. Sure. Alright. Definitely not the most interesting of leaks. So taking a look at this list, Ronin, kind of as expected, was a little bit, or actually a lot of bit underwhelming. There were some spots it was fine. You know, you could try testing it as a 2 of, which I believe when GG tested this deck, he said something similar, that 2 of was fine when Luris was in the format. You know, it's not the best spell on rate, and creatures in general have just gotten much worse in this modern format, whether it be because of more blockers in the way, more efficient removal. So playing an underpowered 1-drop creature that, yes, it has haste, and you can channel it, but, you know, as we saw in some of those games, some of the modern games can be so fast and brutal you don't have time to channel things. Another thing I've noticed in some of the games is, while the 5th Canopy land certainly helps with the flooding out problem, it can also be problematic in terms of taking a lot of damage in situations where we're trying to buy an extra turn, try to top deck the right cards. So that's another card I could see being a flex spot out, either for just only playing 19 lands and playing another spell, or maybe playing a less damaging land, maybe another fetch land, maybe another one of the, like, Crucible of Defiance or something, just some other thing in that slot that, you know, feels like it does something, but also, you know, doesn't deal us as much damage, which has been problematic. But, you know, other than that, I really can't comment much on that league. It was, you know, as good as we've drawn and as good as we've done in some of the other leagues recently, this one kind of went the opposite. And, you know, it's one of the things why I could never be in competitive Magic on a consistent basis, is just, while I enjoy the winning, the losing can be very frustrating, especially in leagues like this where you really don't truly learn anything other than, okay, my opponent's nut draws or luck sacking equals a loss. You know, match number 1, Rhinos, we lost to a really good Rhinos draw game 3 with turn 2 Rhinos, turn 3 Rhinos off of a Gemstone Caverns. You know, we lost to a Grixis deck that we didn't quite understand what was going on, and there was one choice I made, which could have been bringing in the Whirling Vortexes after we saw the Cling to Dust in game number 1. Maybe it could have helped out some, and maybe I was supposed to... I think I did bring in the Sanctifiers, but I don't think I brought in the Vortexes. You know, we were up against some type of Grixis control shell with Murktide, and then match against Tron was fine. Eldrazi Tron has always been a tricky matchup, just from the standpoint of Chalice on 1 always gets us a little bit, no matter how you built your deck, whether you're running the traditional 16 1-drops, whether you're running, you know, 21 drops like we were in this league. It got us in a couple of games there. And then the Asmo deck, you know, while we had beaten it twice the first 2 times we played it, I don't think the pilots were the best at understanding their role in the matchup, and the pilot that we played against did a very outstanding job of understanding their role in the matchup, and just, that Flusterstorm just blew us out. But even if I think if the Flusterstorm isn't there, or some type of counterspell like Metallic Rebuke, and we blow up the Cookbook, the game's at least closer, but the Construct tokens might still beat us in that slot. So I don't know in the grand scheme of things that Flusterstorm meant anything, but at least would have made the game a little bit more interesting. Our opponent would have gone to 5 between the Smash to Smithereens and the Skewer the Critics resolving, and we might have had a little bit more interesting game on our hands going into the following turn, because they wouldn't have been able to infinite combo either. But, like I said, as good as our first several leagues have gone, this league kind of went the complete opposite direction, and those leagues can be kind of frustrating when you just have like so many things go wrong in one league. But hopefully we'll be able to shake it off next league and do better. But my recommendation as far as Ronin, not really worth a slot, but figured we'd give it a roll and see what happens. And, whatever else happens, it's always interesting to toy with new ideas and see what happens. So, anyways, this has been John for MTG Nexus. Hope to see you for the next stream next Sunday night, or we'll probably be back to a more traditional version of Boros. But as always, happy 4th to everybody out there, and hope everybody has a great day.